Jonathan Givony's our guest, ESPN draft analyst. He is at Draft Expert on Twitter. It's Carmen and Yurko on ESPN 1000 and ESPNChicago.com. Who was it worse for last night with New Orleans getting the number one pick? Zion, who some people think, he's never been there. He doesn't really want to go there. He was thinking New York or L.A. He was thinking New York, obviously. Or is it worse for AD? Because now maybe they just kind of sit around and they don't have to trade Anthony Davis. What's going to happen this summer with the Pelicans?
I don't think it's terrible for Zion. Having spent time with him, having been around him from a very early age, the first time I interviewed him was when he was 15 years old. I don't necessarily know that he's a guy that wants that spotlight, that he wants to be in the Garden. I think he can handle it, but I do think that he's a pretty low-key guy, and for him to be in a smaller market like New Orleans where he doesn't have a million cameras in his face every single day, every single minute, I think that might come as a little bit of a relief for him. I was looking at him yesterday, just the whole scene around him, people talking about him during the lottery show, and the cameras on him. I don't know if that's necessarily who he is. I think he can adjust to it. He's not going to complain about it, but I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing for him. And for Anthony Davis, I don't know. I mean, I think this eases the transition for them. It makes it easier for them to go and find the best package right now to pair alongside Zion. I don't know if the people actually believe that they're going to keep him, they're going to play him together. I mean, he could walk in a year from now. That's a very risky proposition. So I think it's all going to work out okay for him, too.
Any chance he decides to stay now that they get Zion, or is that ship sailed?
I don't have too much inside info there. I mean, from what I understand, that ship has sailed, but I mean, the NBA is a very fluid beast, and things can change overnight.
Everybody always is very impressed that you were one of the first guys on Giannis way back when. Giannis might be about to transition to being the best player in this league. I mean, to think that he's only, 24 years old is kind of scary, and what the future holds is going to be remarkable for this kid. What did you always see in Giannis, and can he actually carry them to a championship right now?
Well, I think he's already there. I think he's the best player in the NBA. I think he's the MVP. What did I see? I mean, I was lucky enough to have my ear to the ground, and people were sending me reports and saying, this is a guy that you need to come look at. And, you have to cast a wide net in basketball these days. You have to explore every avenue, and I went out there, and Giannis is what he is. I mean, you see the talent, and so I was just lucky enough to be there to capture that moment, to conduct his first interview he ever did in English, to really put him on the map here in the U.S. And so I just credit it to, being in the right place at the right time, doing my job. I mean, that's my job, is to scour the world and to find these players. And that's just a dream that one day you'll come across a player like Giannis, and, you could help tell his story, and you can play just a very, very tiny role in, what he's achieved, which is a credit to his talent level and his work ethic and, his family and all that.
Does the success of a player like Giannis, I mean, even before this year, I think everybody knew where Giannis was trending. He's been great the last couple of years. And does that make it sort of more likely that a team like Dallas does what it did last year to move up and get Luka Doncic, because they see the talent and they figure, okay, too good to pass up? And not that he's exactly like Giannis, but does Giannis's success have anything to do with the team being aggressive to go get one of those European players like we saw last year?
Well, Donnie Nelson drafted Dirk Nowitzki, and they built their franchise around him, and they won a championship. And I think that's what really gave them the confidence to go and grab Luka Doncic. When other teams in the NBA were hesitating, people were telling me last year, we were super high on Luka Doncic. They were telling me, he's the 7th or 8th best player in the draft. He's too slow. He's too fast. You can't do this. You can't do that. Who is he going to guard? And, I mean, obviously that all went out the window the first moment that NBA preseason games tipped. And so I think Giannis is once in a million. I don't know if we're ever going to see a player like Giannis. I mean, just his story, just the development, that where he was the 15th pick in the draft, but if he didn't play in that little obscure tournament in Italy 2 weeks before the draft, he might have been the 29th player drafted. And so I don't know that we're ever going to see a situation like that before, but I hope we do because I'm hoping to be front and center for it.
Yeah. Why is it so difficult to look at the Euro players and try to figure out exactly what they will be over here?
That's a great question. I don't personally understand. I mean, what Luka Doncic was doing, the productivity, being the best player in the EuroLeague, which is, in my mind, head and shoulders above college basketball. I didn't have any doubts about it. But, I mean, there's a comfort level in scouting college basketball. There's a bigger sample size. You know what you're getting there. And I think it had something to do with the fact that, he doesn't look the part. I mean, that's a big part of the talent evaluation standpoint. You say, well, he's a little, he's a little bit slow. He's a little bit, like, how's his body going to fill out? I mean, he's a little bit fat, like it was the things that people were saying at the time. It was, Luka Doncic probably has 15% body fat, but he's the smartest basketball player that you'll find. And so his brain just works on a different level than other people. And so, I think that they overthought that one. And I mean, part of it is just there's not a lot of players like Luka Doncic in the league. And you always hear, well, who is this guy? And I heard that about Zion early in the year. People say, well, who do you compare him to? And it's like, well, I don't compare him to anybody. He's his own guy, and he's doing things that have never been done before and probably never will be. And so you have to expand your mind a little bit. You have to think outside of those boxes. And I think, there's a reason why those bad teams they're drafting the top five. It's because they had terrible seasons because they made bad decisions leading up to that point. And so that probably goes into that too.
Sure seems like Zion will go number one and John Morant's going to go number two. Are you pretty convinced that they're both going to be great players, Jonathan?
I'm convinced on Zion. I think the jury is out on John Morant. I love his talent level. I personally think R.J. Barrett should go number two.
Okay.
That's who I would take if I were the Grizzlies. Having watched R.J. from a really young age, seeing the things that he's done at the international level. I was in Cairo, Egypt, watching him tear apart our USA basketball team as a 17-year-old going up against 19-year-olds. And that's I love John Morant's talent, but I'm taking R.J. Barrett.
All right, excellent. Jonathan, we appreciate the time, and maybe we can catch up one more time right before the draft next month. We appreciate it.